Okay, I think we'll get started. We might see a few more people pop on. But welcome to those on the call for today's webinar about unlocking your potential through mentorship, so both for personal and professional growth. As Tam has shared, and I've just seen somebody else jump in, we're going to be doing a quick short survey pre and post, just so Pollen can capture a bit of impact from today's session. So if you just check the chat out and fill that out during the session, that would be great. Also, we're going to make some time for Q&A today. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, just drop them in the chat and Tam and I will go through those towards the end. I'll also make a bit of space towards the end where you can just think of anything in the moment and we'll go through those together. Presentation should last about 30 to 40 minutes max. I'll try and keep it short and sweet. But on that note, I'll just give a quick introduction to myself and then what we'll be covering, and then we'll get into the meat of it. So a little bit about me. My name is Daisy, and I am self-employed as a freelance advisor and coach. So I partner with tech startups on their go-to-market strategies, and I also coach their leadership teams, and I manage a private practice for coaching alongside that. I've spent over a decade now, which feels wild to say, in the tech industry, specifically in B2B businesses, so supporting organizations and their employees, particularly in the remit of well-being and mental health. So the last in-house role I had was VP of client success for a mental health startup, so providing tools and strategies for organizations around the world. And my kind of roles have spanned client success, commercial, implementation, project management, leadership roles. But I would say my career has been anything but linear. It's definitely been a bit of a squiggly career. I studied French at university. I was really interested in languages, and I ended up living over there for many years and doing lots of diverse roles. Even at one point ending up working on a boat for 6 months, which was very random, probably not to be repeated. But I'd say my journey has been driven by curiosity and trying to always identify what my strengths and interests are. So I believe those to be kind of communication, relationship building, building processes, strategic work. So I've really tried to kind of find roles that allow me to kind of practice those skills. And I think I've always been attracted to organizations where there is a positive mission that I can get behind. So something that's going to have an impact on people's lives. So mental health has been a particular interest. And I look for tech startups that are trying to do something within that space, well-being space. And I say that mentoring has been pivotal in my career and being able to help me establish what those strengths are, but also go after the sort of roles and meet the sort of people that are going to help me along the way. So in terms of today's session, as I said, about 30 to 40 minutes, including questions and answers. And it's all about why mentorship matters and, importantly, how to find a mentor and how to make the most of that relationship. So what I'm hoping is you'll walk away with a greater understanding of what the benefits of mentoring can be. As I said, how to find one and how to make the most of that relationship. And spoiler alert, Pollen does have a library full of amazing, brilliant people who are open to providing mentorship. So you might be aware of this already. If you're not, no worries. What we're going to do at the end is just take you through a few quick links so that you can access that library. Okay, so first things first, what is mentoring? We're going to define the concept. And to begin with, I'm going to, hopefully the text's not going to fail, but share with you a Slido poll. And I would love it if you could just think of one word that you think demonstrates what coaching is, or not coaching, what mentoring does, and what mentoring is. So I will share my screen here. You should be able to zap the QR code or click the link and it should take you through to the Slido poll to drop in your words of choice. So I'll give you a couple of minutes now to do that. Just drop in the chat if you have any issues, and then hopefully we'll be able to sort those out. So what is your one word that best describes what mentoring is? So hopefully you've all had a chance to quickly jump into that link. I'm now going to pray that we can actually get on to Slido. Yes, we can. Fantastic. Cool. So what do you feel best describes mentoring? So we've got here transformative, inspiration, support, supportive. So a couple of, some synergy there with the words, enlightening, guidance, encouraging. Okay. So some themes coming through there. If we jump back into the concepts then. So what I wanted to do is look at some definitions and some distinctions. You'll notice earlier a bit of a mind slip. I said coaching. So there are kind of some helping modalities that can often be kind of interchanged. So I think it's useful to define each. And some of you may be well versed in what mentoring is already, and maybe you've been mentored before. But as a refresher, and for those that maybe are kind of new to this, we'll go through these quickly now. So firstly, coaching. So coaching is a collaborative and goal-orientated process. And the key thing I think that it focuses on is building self-awareness, looking at growth and actionable strategies, but very much coming from the individual being coached with guidance from the coach, but without it being advisory. So a coach shouldn't really tell you specifically what to do, kind of give their opinion or judgment in that way. They're really facilitating a process. So, for example, in my coaching practice, people might come to me around the next step in their career or stepping into leadership, and they'll be wanting to work on certain themes. And what I'll do is use behavioral tools, processes, things that we can do together to understand themselves better and to help them unlock their next step forward. And it's quite grounded in psychology a lot of the time. So we'll be using things such as cognitive behavioral therapy, etc. So it's kind of a science in and of itself. The next kind of helping modality I hear people say a lot when talking about mentoring is advising and advisory. So advisors will typically offer insights based on their expertise and experience and focus on problem solving, decision making, optimizing outcomes. And it's normally a formal arrangement, transactional and paid for. When I think about my advisory work with startups, it will be, okay, how do we go to market in the most effective way? You know, what's our brand identity? Who's the audience that we want to define, and who do we want to reach to, and how? All sorts of things that are, very kind of strategic. And I'm obviously offering very specific advice and sort of sharing my experience in the space. Now, the kind of final concept and what we're here to talk about today is what mentoring is. And I see that as a very informal developmental relationship. And it could be short term, it could be one-off, or it could be a continuous ongoing relationship. And we'll get into the different sorts of mentoring relationships that might come about, and how you can foster those. As I said, informal, usually not paid for. And it's focusing on learning, skill development, career advancement, and all through the kind of lens and advice and role modeling of that mentor. So this is mentoring in a nutshell. And we will share these slides afterwards. I'll also kind of share my notes as well. So don't worry about kind of retaining everything that I'm speaking to. Wanted to play, because we all know webinars can be quite overwhelming when there's somebody chatting to you and at you for a certain amount of time. So wanted to play a bit of a game in the chat, just to kind of bring to life some infamous examples of mentor-mentee relationships and the sorts of things, people are getting from having that connection with somebody else. So The first one is trying to guess who Oprah Winfrey had as a mentor. So take a quick moment just to have a look at the kind of summary. And the quotes towards the bottom there are from their mentor. So some of them might be familiar to you and might help you figure out who this person is. But if you can drop in the chat any ideas as who you think this mentor could have been. I'll just give you a couple of seconds and see if anything comes through. Boom. So Ray's got it straight away. It is Dr. Maya Angelou. So infamous American memoirist and poet. And you might know her from the last quote in particular. And that's something for me that I think can sum up how positive a mentoring relationship can be. And then it can leave its mark in terms of feeling inspired, more confident, supported. And when I reflect on the times that I've been mentored, sometimes I've forgotten about the ins and outs of it, but I've really valued how it's made me feel, that I felt reassured about my future, that I've had somebody to listen to me and to offer their insights with humility. So kind of a safe space, really. So that's Oprah Winfrey and Dr. Maya Angelou. I'm a bit envious of that mentorship for sure. Next up, we've got Mark Zuckerberg, and I'm wondering if anybody can guess who his mentor could have been based on this summary and the quotes below. So I'll just give a couple of seconds for you to read through that and drop anything in the chat. Any guesses who Zuckerberg might have looked up to when he was building his career? Yes, Faith. Nailed it. So Steve Jobs is obviously the founder of Apple. I guess he had some useful experience to share with that in mind. And the last quote around connecting the dots stood out to me when I think about starting out on your career journey, and learning to not only trust, but enjoy the process as you go through, which I think is easier said than done. Um, but I think it's as much about the journey as it is about the final destination, because often you don't quite know what that is, and it can feel very far away. And it, in my experience, changes. So I think even though it can sound quite corny to say, trust the journey, trust the process, enjoy it, I think kind of thinking day to day and being really aware and awake for the process and enjoying what you can is super important as much as it is about the end destination. So that is Steve Jobs. Very nice black and white photo there. And then finally, Nelson Mandela. So just looking at this slide, who do we think Nelson Mandela might have looked up to and sought guidance from based on this summary and quotes? I'll just give, again, just a minute or so to take that in. And this is the last one of Guess Who. Any guesses on this one? I think this is probably the most difficult and further back. So I will jump in the interest of time. It was Gandhi, so Indian lawyer, anti-colonial nationalist, political ethicist, lots to his name. And again, the last quote, so the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others, really spoke to me from a mentor point of view. So I think there's something really special for the mentor in mentorship relationships also. And some of you might be thinking about mentoring, are mentoring, might mentor in the future to pay it forward. And I think you get to learn a huge amount about yourself and you get to grow through that process alongside your mentee. And when I talk about making the most of your mentor relationships, mentor-mentee relationships, I will speak to, how you can kind of give back to that person as well and how that can really foster a strong relationship. So I wanted to call out that kind of mutual reciprocity there. Okay, so we've spoken about like what mentorship is, looked at some examples, just to bring it to life a little bit. And I wanted to look at now, and I'm sure this will be kind of pertinent to people who are starting to think about mentoring, how to find a mentor, the path to mentoring, and how to access mentoring. So I've broken this down into some steps. Like this is just one pathway. There could be multiple, and it's not going to be linear, as I said. It could be really squiggly. And I will share this slide along with my notes so that you can take a look through in your own time. But how do you become a mentee? So I think it does require a certain amount of strategic thought and to have a really thoughtful approach. But it really isn't rocket science, and it doesn't need to be a daunting process. So first things first, it's about defining those skills. So specific skills, project areas, things that you would maybe want specific assistance with and going from there. And I think you should be clear about, what skills do you want to grow? What industries are you interested in? What behaviors do you want to demonstrate in your roles? Kind of get an idea of where you might look for your mentor, what sort of mentor relationship would you want to have? So really getting clear with like what your goals are first and what are the areas that interest you. And I think often kind of mentorship can seem sort of like these big examples that I shared from the celebrity or the kind of famous world. I don't think it has to be that kind of be all and end all, that one person that you rely on for everything. I think you can start with micro mentorship. So small engagements with somebody that maybe organically over time develop into kind of a more long-term relationship or mentorship. But you also might have lots of micro mentors and create your own mini portfolio. So lots of different people that bring lots to your life, kind of similar to your personal family relationships. You don't go to one person for absolutely everything. I think that can introduce lots of new perspectives. It also takes the pressure off a little bit, trying to find that one mentor. So that's first things first, thinking about industry roles, skills, behaviors, kind of changing the concept of what a mentor is. So micro mentorship, micro engagements, and many mentors. Next, it's kind of thinking about approaching people. So searching for the companies you're maybe interested in or the people that you've seen and are interested in on LinkedIn. Joining groups. I think trying to attend niche events where possible, meetups, things that maybe say Pollen organizers or similar communities organize. The smaller and more intimate, the better. It just gives you a chance to connect with people and have those conversations at a deeper level. And you can also try engaging with people in a genuine way, maybe on their posts, their blog posts, LinkedIn posts, etc. Just kind of build up a bit of a profile, a little bit of a connection, and then you might follow on to kind of sending a direct message, for example, but we can get into that. In terms of kind of other places to look, leveraging your existing network for recommendations, I think is key. It really doesn't hurt to ask people that you know, or friends of friends, friend of a family member, whatever it might be. And I think with that, sometimes you're more likely to get a good fit mentor because it comes from a recommendation, you know a bit more about them. And they might be a little bit more invested and open to connection because, they know somebody, there's a mutual connection there. So just wanted to mention that there. And also kind of play back that theme of micro mentorship. So kind of, it could be just a couple of chats and you get something from that. And also, lots of different people. So speaking to lots of people and broadening your perspective. For example, I had a mentor who was the chairman of the previous company I was at, and he would talk to me and help me with understanding the startup space and how to kind of really do well in that environment. I also had a mentor who I'd speak to about confidence and, some imposter syndrome. I'd also bring challenges when I was a manager around difficult, challenging conversations that I didn't want to have, and we'd role play together, for example. And then I had very sort of specific kind of role mentorship around client success. So how to run a good renewals process, how to change manage with a client. So you can really kind of pepper your portfolio with lots of interesting people. And then finally, kind of the reaching out aspect. So when you do reach out, being really direct and specific, about why you're reaching out, what are your objectives, how you feel their expertise could help. And I think kind of being quite sort of like holding it lightly, the requests. I don't think you need to go in unless it's a specific mentorship platform like Pollen, for example, where people are on there advertised as mentors. I don't think you need to go in and say explicitly, right, I want you to be my mentor straight away. I kind of see it like dating in a way, like maybe you'll see each other for a while, don't put any labels on it. So you just need to take the pressure off and sort of hold the invite lightly, so to speak. So you can start with asking for a connection call. And when you do so, be confident about it. The worst that can happen is somebody won't respond for whatever reason, or they can't do it for whatever reason. And in that case, thank them and move on. But I would say 9 times out of 10, people are really open to it because, they've been in a similar situation historically. They've received some help and they want to kind of pay it forward and pay it back. So I think go for it. And once you've established that connection, you can naturally build the relationship, stay in touch, ask questions, show your progress. And we'll go into a bit more the practicalities of what the actual mentoring process looks like. And this is just that kind of initial build to finding somebody to mentor you. I think the final point that I'd mention here is around staying proactive and doing a bit of self-mentorship. So if you're kind of thinking of that in the sense of continuous learning, so accessing, reading podcasts, attending things you're interested in, because you're going to meet people who are like-minded, who you might want to kind of mentor you and provide guidance. But I also think if you're already on that path of sort of self-discovery and learning, it's quite attractive, and mentors can be really drawn to that initiative and that dedication. So just wanted to share here really quickly some examples of outreach that I've received from people that I've got on to mentor. One of them was actually just a kind of one and done. She wanted to pick my brains on something and then she was off, and that was actually through the Pollen community. And then somebody else completely separate who works in the wellbeing space as a new consultant wanted to kind of start engaging and kind of creating a dialogue, like once every couple of months just to check in and kind of use me as a bit of a sounding board. So I won't read these through, but both are to the point. Both are really polite, they're specific, and I think both of them have a clear call to action. So for example, let me know if you've any time over the coming weeks. But without it being kind of too punchy or presumptive, it's sort of quite light. I could go back to that and say, no, unfortunately not. So it's, yeah, I think these are two really good examples of how you might kind of do some outreach, for example, on LinkedIn. So we've spoken a bit to the benefits. I just wanted to kind of reiterate those, and then we'll go into how you can make the most of your kind of interaction with a mentor. And maybe some of you already have mentors and you're looking for some kind of extra tips. So the benefits I see as being kind of threefold in the main, and they really create a sort of multiplier effect. So first and foremost, it's about that personal and professional development. So skill development, confidence, career advancement. It also can unlock a new network, and it creates that ripple effect. I think when you're engaged with a mentor, you absolutely should, where relevant, or if you know somebody that they know, but you haven't kind of made that kind of connection yet, ask for introductions to kind of broaden your horizons. I would definitely pitch it as that, broadening your horizons as opposed to sort of leveraging their influence, but, it can definitely give you more access to other people, and they might think of opportunities and share those with you, etc. And then the final thing that I think kind of holistically wraps around this, and for me, I think has been the most beneficial about mentoring personally, is that level of kind of emotional support, somebody who can listen to you, offer guidance. And I think that kind of level of feedback and feeling kind of less isolated can really buoy you up, especially if, you know, you're a first-time job seeker. It can be really daunting. You can feel alone. It's nice to kind of have that space and for somebody to kind of share their experiences and know that, okay, yeah, people have been through it and they've, you know, got to this point, they've built through this and that, and they can share these experiences with you. So final sort of meaty slide, and then we'll come up for some air, any questions, and we'll look at Pollen's mentor directory. This is probably, I'd say, the most important aspect, like once you kind of connect with somebody, how to maximize the benefits. So number one is setting clear goals. So really identifying what do you want to achieve by this interaction and communicate those with your mentor, and even, you know, co-create those together. And I think depending on the longevity of your relationship, you can look to do some retrospectives and check in on those goals and reset new ones as you go, just so that you can see the progress. Also, they can kind of see the impact that they've had. Number two is being proactive. So I really do think it's down to like the mentee to really drive the relationship. So that can look like, you know, diarising, scheduling regular meetings, coming prepared with your questions, updating them on your progress, like, and maybe sharing sort of success stories where things have gone well. I would say from my experience, it's really useful to come with very specific projects, challenges, areas where you'd like direct guidance. For example, earlier I mentioned I had a mentor who'd helped me with specific scenarios around management. And I remember needing to have a really difficult performance evaluation conversation with somebody I managed, and I really didn't want to do it. I really wasn't looking forward to it. And so we did a little bit of role play in our session, and this person was able to feed back to me, and it kind of just eased me into it and gave me a few more sort of like tips and tricks to use in that upcoming session. Listen and apply advice. So I think this is about sort of when you're there, like being present and taking, you know, the insights seriously. You know, some stuff you might not want to apply or maybe you disagree with, but I think sort of being respectful of somebody's time and taking those insights on board, and where you can and where you want to, implementing those and sort of feeding that back again, so the mentor can kind of see, oh, right, this is actually having an impact, you know, I'm on track here. In terms of also being respectful of their time, I think it's about creating really focused and efficient sessions. So not just having a check-in for the sake of it, even though that's really nice in terms of just that human connection, but, you know, what are you going to be doing in that session? Like, how long is it going to last? Like, what do you want to talk about? Just really make the most of that time in an efficient way. And I think where it feels comfortable and it's like authentic, showing your gratitude. So whether that's just a quick heartfelt note, an email, I've seen some people kind of post on LinkedIn about their mentors, you know, they've done like co-blogs together, whatever it might be, whatever you're comfortable with. I think showing that gratitude it's important for any sort of exchange, really. Another way that you can kind of, I guess, pay it back to the mentor is around offering your own perspective or assistance. And this can be quite a nice way to trial, you know, how you might mentor, or, you know, how you might kind of share, you know, advice and teach somebody in a work scenario. So that could be if you've got particular kind of skills that maybe the mentor could benefit from, whatever that is, like social media, something kind of in the tech vicinity, whatever it is, insights from the field that maybe they haven't kind of picked up on, a report that you could share with them that's going to benefit their world. I think that's a really lovely exchange and kind of creates this kind of deeper connection. So offering your perspective and or assistance to create that collaborative relationship where appropriate. And then I think finally is consistency and openness are key. So share what's working, share what's not working, you know, bring your honest, kind of authentic self. And really, I think the key thing with mentoring is it's two people connecting one who's a bit further down the track, has a bit more experience, kind of sharing their insights, and somebody else kind of learning from that. But it's really a dialogue between two people, and you can learn a lot from one another. So I feel like we've whistled through that. Timing wise, we're coming up to, I think, about half an hour, because I joined the call a bit early and my timer is probably out of whack. But we will get through the summary, and I will show you the Pollen kind of mentorship directory. Then we've got a short survey to fill out, like a post survey for insights for Pollen, and the chance for any questions as well. Cool. So key takeaways, the 3 Ps. First of all, prepare. Do your research, get clear on your intentions, and be as specific as possible. So think about industry, role, skills, behaviors. And this is like, yeah, just getting really practical with you know, where you're at, what you want before you kind of go out there. Position yourself. So get yourself out there, whatever avenue it takes. Like, you can be creative about it, but, you know, lean into, you know, some of the suggestions that we've made in this presentation. Hold your requests lightly. So again, what I mean by that is go in with the expectation that, you know, it'll be amazing if somebody comes back to you and they want to partner up, but, you know, they may not, and they're within their rights not to, and not being disheartened by that. There's a million and one reasons why somebody wouldn't do it, but as I said, 9 times out of 10 they'll be open to it, even if it's just like a one and done connection. Be confident and direct. Again, you know, you've got to be in it to win it, and just see what happens. Think about micro mentorship, so these kind of small kind of interactions that don't have to be continuous. And think about building that portfolio of mentors over time. As I said, we've got so many friends, family members in our lives. We go to people for different things. One person can't be everything. That's too much pressure for somebody. So I think diversifying the people that you surround yourself with it can only be positive. And then how do you partner up? So really make the most of your time together, prepare those questions, prepare those scenarios, those challenges, take things away, action them, feedback, what's going well, give back where appropriate and where you can. Again, I'm thinking of examples with my mentors. I shared a report on the latest benefits trends for wellbeing in 2025 and highlighted some stuff that I knew would be relevant to his portfolios that he invests in. So just kind of small things, kind of give a bit of give back. And then last but not least, being honest, you know, what's working well, what you need more help with. And at some point, you know, during the relationship, and it could be the mentor, it could be you that does this, you realize that maybe you've come to that natural point of sort of value, I guess, where it's time to part ways, or maybe you've got kind of what you need out of it, and things change, circumstances change. So just being honest around that as well, and leaving on good terms, and, you know, staying in contact at you know, convenient points. So the mentor directory, I probably can click in and show you quickly, but we'll share these links after the presentation. Some of you might have seen this already. If not, I'll just have a quick look into it. So you can see here loads and loads of people who have volunteered to mentor the Pollen community. Lots of different industries, lots of different experience levels, seniority, and they can offer various amounts of time. So maybe once a month, twice a month. You just have to look into these cards and get a little bit of information about them and how they can maybe assist you. So you can reach out either via the contact details they've got here, or maybe if you're unsure, reach out to the Pollen team. Cool. So the second thing you can do if you want to learn a little bit more about like the concepts of mentorship, but also any of these other kind of remit areas, industries, sort of competencies, etc. There's so much in here. And actually, I feel like I need to go in and have a look myself, but there's so much in here to kind of look at. So do, as I said, where you can sort of self-mentor and like build up your knowledge by utilizing what's available to you. And then FAQs. So if there's anything that you're unsure about, like maybe from today's like session, you want to know a bit more about mentoring, jump in here. But there's lots of other kind of FAQs about other different subjects on Pollen. So jump in, have a peruse, see what you can find, and if in doubt, kind of reach out to the team, and I'm sure they'll be very, very happy to help. So I feel like I've been cramming into that 30 odd minutes. So I'm going to take a breath, just in case there's any questions, no pressure, just drop them in the chat now. And whilst you're doing that, there'll also be a short survey that will be linked to in a second, I imagine. If you could just complete that as a bit of a post measure for this session, that would also be fantastic. Is that right, Tam?
Hi, sorry, yeah, just getting all the links up. But yeah, please, if you guys could complete the post-session survey. Um, I may ask as well if you didn't get a chance to, just based on how you felt before this session, if you could just scroll up and complete the survey link that was put in before the session, that would be a really big help. And then yeah, I'm just gonna add the post-session survey now. Um, and yeah, any other questions that you have for Daisy, please feel free to add into the comment section below.
Cool, thank you. Okay, we've got one here. Oh, thank you so much. I've had a mentor before on a one-off basis and for around 3 sessions as basically follow-up sessions. But how do you recommend fostering a longer-term mentor relationship, say one that happens every 2 weeks or a monthly basis? This can be an awkward area to discuss. Yeah, for sure. I think people have like varying amounts of time that they can commit to, right? And it can be a bit of an awkward exchange if you don't know this person at all, or if they're open to mentorship and you kind of go on LinkedIn, you're like, hi, I want you to be my mentor, and can it be every 2 weeks? Which is why I think my first immediate thought was, if you haven't looked at the Pollen directory, to go in there, because there are some people who will offer once a month or once every 2 weeks, and they're happy to do that on an ongoing basis. So do check into those cards and see who might kind of meet your needs, and reach out to them. And then I would say, if you might have done this already, but when you maybe do have that kind of first connection with somebody, maybe ask them like, look, I am looking for, obviously we'll see how it goes together and whether we're the right fit, but I am looking for some more kind of longer term advice and guidance, and I want to build that relationship over time. Is that something you're open to, or do you have a defined amount of time? And you could also ask them, if they're not the right person, do they know anybody else in their network? But kind of similar to the like dating comparison, you kind of got to be in it to win it. You kind of just have to try and see how you get on. Cool. So another one from Abby. This is mentors who have posted that they are happy to mentor on a long-term basis. Okay, interesting. So with that in mind, I think kind of like asking if you can, like, for a bit of feedback around sort of because maybe it is about fit, or maybe sort of what you're looking for might be better kind of met by somebody else. Maybe doing a little bit of discovery and digging there. And maybe going back to kind of those initial intentions around like who you're looking for, but why, like what are the things that you really want to get out of that mentoring, being really clear on those and making sure that that aligns with essentially who you're trying to find. Survey session links. Okay, one from B. No worries. Thanks, Abby. I'm very eager to start looking for mentor, but I feel I'm early in the direction of my career. Start mentorship in the social impact sector. Okay, yeah, really interesting. I think probably really, really relatable. Like, it can just feel like this vast, vast sea. Again, I think you want to start trying to find people by industry. So in your case, the social impact sector, having a look for specific organizations, perhaps going onto LinkedIn, looking at any kind of community or event type things that they host, seeing whether there's any ins there, or if there's specific people who may be posting that you can kind of connect with or start following and start maybe contributing that way. And reaching out, and maybe if again it's not them, they could recommend somebody. I don't know, maybe on the Pollen Mentor, because what we can see on there is people are tagging by industry. There might be some people who've worked in that field or similarly in that field. So having a look on there. And again, because it can be overwhelming, like think, what do you really want to get out of the mentoring? Is it you want to learn more about that sector? Is it that you want to learn about what the skills are that are required? Is there something very specific that, you know, you could actually get answered somewhere else, like with a bit of self-mentorship, kind of like with your own research, etc. And then maybe just have a one-off conversation with somebody, again, to kind of create this piecemeal approach and take a bit of pressure off. So again, really thinking about what do you specifically want to understand, and maybe going at it incrementally and not all in once. Hopefully that's somewhat helpful.